Good afternoon. I'm Ron Furlong, and you're here with Max Davidson, one of the four candidates in the 2023 by-election for the position of councillor for the town of Amherst. Just to give you a sense of how this will play out, Mr. Davidson will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes, introducing himself and his platform. Following that, we move to the questions that have been shared with all of the candidates as of Friday evening. The 10 questions provided to the candidates have been chosen from 3 sources: from those submitted by the public during previous Meet the Candidates events, they've been prepared by the Chamber of Commerce, or they've been submitted by the candidates themselves. Each candidate will be asked a total of 4 of those 10 questions, and the specific questions and the order of asking has been drawn at random. They'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Following the questions, they'll have 3 minutes to provide their closing comments for the interview. Now, having the small print out of the way, let's hear from Mr. Davidson. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn the floor over to you to give us some sense of what this election is about for you.
Thanks, Ron. Amherst, your town, your vote, your candidate. I'm Alan Davidson, better known to my friends and most of my colleagues as Max. My reason for running in this special election to fill the vacant council seat on the Amherst Town Council is basically a need or a desire to give back to a town and a community that gave so much to me in my younger years. I was born and brought up here in Amherst. I graduated from Amherst Regional High School in 1967 and set off shortly after that to see the world. I've been so fortunate and so lucky to see so much of the planet Earth that we call home. I've been very fortunate as well to have had 3 very successful and rewarding careers in my life. The first was as a skating coach, which lasted for over 25 years, giving me the opportunity to coach not only in a number of areas of Canada, but in the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. Following my time and retirement as a coach, I went on to become a volunteer judge and evaluator with Skate Canada, something that has kept me involved and interested in the sport for over 25 years now. After my retirement from coaching, I did start out on another career, this time as a registered psychiatric nurse in British Columbia. I was honored and humbled to be elected by my union to be their president for several years while working as a nurse in British Columbia. I retired from nursing in 2007. I then went on to San Francisco, where I qualified and was certified as a tour director, working for several large international tour operators, including Scenic and Evergreen Tours and Vacations from Australia, as well as Destination America and its various brands, including Trafalgar, Insight, and Luxury Gold. Now retired from working as a tour director in various parts of Canada, including the Prairies, Alberta, British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, and most importantly, here in the Maritimes, where I've been so lucky to have guests from around the world and show them how proud I am of my home province of Nova Scotia and the other 2 maritime provinces, Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick. Now retired from that, I find myself working at the Nova Scotia Tourism Visitors Information Center in Fort Lawrence, again, where I can proudly tell folks visiting our province, not only about Nova Scotia, but my hometown of Amherst. If you want to know more about me, please follow my Facebook page, have a look. It's Candidate for Town Council, and it's in brackets Max, that's spelled M-A-X. Now back to you, Ron, for those questions.
Thank you, Max. Question number 1. What do you see as needing the attention of the town of Amherst? And if elected to council, how will you take that on?
Okay, so what do I see as needing the attention of the town of Amherst? And if elected, I should say when elected to council, how am I going to take that on? Well, my response would be that some folks in town are probably going to be talking about the infrastructure of the town. Others, on the other hand, would be heard to reflect on the level of property taxes here in Amherst. Meanwhile, we might have another group that be voicing their concerns over the loss of our downtown core over the last few years. When elected to your town council, I will make it one of my priorities to increase the level of engagement of our citizens here in the town of Amherst in the concerns such as I've mentioned above, as well as increasing the level of pride in our community through public participation.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, over the years, councils have worked on various strategies to increase tourism in our county. As candidates in this election, what action should the council take and complete in the next few years to boost tourism in the short term and in the long term?
Well, Ron, I look at it this way. Tourism Nova Scotia operates the Visitor Information Center, as I mentioned, at Fort Lawrence, as one of what are considered the 5 gateways to our province, along with Stanfield International Airport, the Halifax Waterfront, Yarmouth, and of course, Port Hastings, the gateway to Cape Breton. Of these 5 gateways and visitor information centers to our province, only the airport location and the Visitors Information Center at Fort Lawrence are open on a year-round basis, the others being seasonally based operations. Boosting tourism and going after the tourist dollar is no easy thing in these days of economic insecurity, a pending recession, and the vast amount of competition there is out there for those tourist dollars. And all one has to do is ask any tour operator, and they'll tell you the same thing. Yarmouth, for instance, has been able, with the assistance of Tourism Nova Scotia, to have a seasonal exhibition of work from the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, located in Yarmouth. And I have often found myself asking why Amherst, as a gateway shire town to the province, has not gone after something along the same lines, as there certainly are several heritage buildings which would make suitable sites for such a venture. Additionally, we have to look at the fact opening hours for businesses in Amherst on Sundays are in many ways, and in many cases, not opening at all on Sundays, are not the most appealing to convince tourists to visit the town of Amherst. And as a reminder to businesses, tourists don't all start traveling after 12 o'clock.
Thank you. The third question: how do you see the role of the business community in strengthening our communities? And what will you as councillor do to encourage and support businesses?
Okay, again, how do you see the role of the business community in strengthening our communities? And what would I consider as a councillor to do to encourage and support business? Well, businesses need to take the time to rethink their business models, especially in relation to the busy summer months, where we have thousands of tourists traveling through our area, and in far too many cases, not taking the time to visit Amherst, not time to visit our town. This is especially true where Sunday opening hours are concerned, with 12 noon being the norm, and in other cases, not being open at all on Sundays. When elected to council, I would encourage businesses on our Golden Mile to consider opening earlier on Sundays, maybe at 10 o'clock in the morning, and if need be, closing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd also encourage businesses in our downtown core to revamp their hours where necessary and possible in order to have their businesses open on Sundays. I'd also encourage council and other agencies to look for a grocery store chain or operator to locate in our downtown core, which would not only meet the needs of visitors and tourists to the town of Amherst, but moreover, the needs of folks living in our downtown core, or at least near it.
Thank you. Final question: what do you feel is one of your strengths, and what do you feel is one of your weaknesses?
Oh my, strengths and weaknesses. Wow. Let's see. As one of the strengths is the fact I always try to make certain I follow through with what I say I'll do to the best of my ability. And I do that by listening to what others are saying to me and by being honest in my responses. That's a strength I have. As far as weaknesses are concerned, there are actually 2 which come to mind. Firstly, the fact there are often times when I find it difficult to say no, while the other weakness is my need for chocolate. That's my big weakness.
All right. If you would, you have 3 minutes to give us a summary of what you want us to, information you want us to take away from this.
Okay, in that 3 minutes, the first thing I'd like to say is I have a motto. My motto is to involve, inform, and inspire. That's something I've tried to do all my life in all my careers and would continue to do as a town councillor. My campaign slogan was your town, your vote, your candidate. And that's what I believe. This is your town, this is your vote, and I am your candidate. Finally, I'd like to say that prior to not putting in my nomination papers, I had no idea this was a salaried position. And as such, I have decided when I'm elected to council, I will be donating my salary to two very worthwhile charitable organizations in this area for whatever length of time I may serve on council. It's one of those things of you can't rob Paul to pay Peter. And I would feel that if I want to give back to the town, I want to give back to the town on my terms as far as the salary is concerned. So that's about it. And the other thing is, like I said, you can find out more about me by having a look at my Facebook page. And that is, what's it say here? I put the glasses back on. Candidate for Amherst Town Council, and in brackets, my name, Max, M-A-X. And that's about it. And in closing, I'd just like to say thank you to Ron and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting these interviews, and also wishing my fellow candidates the best in this coming election. Thank you, Ron.
Well, thank you very much, Max. And that concludes our interview for this, and hopefully all the best.
Thank you, Ron.